I want to welcome everybody that jumps on here. My name is Matt Reardon. I'm otherwise known as the Oxford Outlaw. Back in May of 2017, I was politically persecuted in Oxford, Mississippi, Lafayette County, Mississippi. It was part of, and I've called this out since day one, it was part of an election scandal that involved sliding the incoming mayor's biggest opponent out of the way, silencing him. But I also found out that there was a lot more to it than just that. Over the last year, I actually found out that that when they slid me out of the way on a completely false charge, that they also used that to pass 2 new city laws, new ordinances revolving around the gun carry laws in Oxford, Mississippi. I'm a big Second Amendment activist. I'm a big activist of all of our constitutional rights. I believe we have to protect them to the fullest, because the second that one goes disregarded, all of them do. Those that know me know that I'm not one to reach out and ask for help. God knows this whole entire time I've been fighting on my own. Have not had an attorney. I've actually fought in 6 different courts. I filed probably 500-600 pages of court filings over the last year and a half. More recently finished up a 1.5-year investigation into Lafayette County into the corruption that happened. I have gotten pushback and resistance from these agencies, particularly the Lafayette County Sheriff's Department, that held all the guilt, that held all the responsibility, primarily. But I've also gotten pushback and resistance from the State of Mississippi Attorney General's office. I have tried my damnedest to get them to conduct an investigation, to engage, and it's fallen on deaf ears. The Mississippi Bureau of Investigations has refused to conduct an investigation. The FBI actually destroyed a report. Well, I say destroyed a report. The report grew 2 legs and disappeared back in 2017. I met with them the day before I was ambushed because it was reported that there was a hit out on me. There's been lots of crazy things that have happened. And I decided that I was going to create a documentary to publish all the proof. Because when things like this happen, we cannot keep them suppressed in silence. I believe that every American, especially all patriotic Americans, we have a moral obligation, an ethical responsibility to expose when it comes to deep state corruption, when it comes to the lives of innocent Americans getting completely destroyed at the hands of tyrants. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. Back in 2007, I swore a lifelong oath to uphold and defend our Constitution, protect our country from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And that was an oath that never expires. Nowhere in the military oath does it say anything to the effect of this oath ends when the time of your enlistment ends. I want to play this video clip. It's about 12 minutes long. Okay? I'm asking for assistance on behalf of my family. I've got 3 girls. Actually, I got 4 girls. And I have a wife. We've actually lost multiple houses. I don't want to get into the details of that. We've lost multiple houses over the last 4 years. My economic opportunity has been completely shot. My ways of making money have been targeted. My wife's employment is targeted. And all because she shares the same last name as me. She's married to me. So check this out. please leave your comments. Go to writingwiththeoutlaw.com to see all the proof. You can go to writingwiththeoutlaw.com/help. Okay? So please check out the website. I try to publish all the evidence there. And if you can help, if you have the ability, I need to hire an out-of-state attorney. I'm in the Supreme Court right now, the Court of Appeals. I fully expect them to reverse and render, but my fight's nowhere over. Lafayette County Sheriff's Department has lodged 9 charges against me that I'm standing trial for. Supposed to go to trial on the 15th of this month. Now I'm trying to get that pushed out, but I've got evidence of my innocence there. All these are sham. Just ways for them to abscond with the guilt that they caused. All right, check this out. Please leave your comments, and if you don't have the ability to help in any way, I ask that you just share my content, because right now, some force unbeknownst to me, I'm not reaching hardly anybody. I used to get 5,000 people on a live stream at the end of it. Now I can reach 5 people over a matter of 5 days, no matter how many times I share a video. Check this out, let me know what you think.
Okay. Try something new. I'm down in downtown Water Valley. And this is where I first came when I got out in July of 2017. I gotta say, I miss this place a lot. Something about a small town. It's a rarity for me to ask anyone for anything. But on behalf of myself, my wife, and my children, I'm going to ask anyone willing and able for relief. Those that know me know that I've always been one not to ask for assistance. The times I've had to, I've honestly been procrastinating to the very last second, because the fact of the matter is, I just don't like conveying the fact that I need help. So it shouldn't be much of a shocker that this is no different. In just the past 4 years alone, I've been very outspoken in regards to our rights and liberties bestowed upon us. Make no mistake about it, contrary to what our quickly evolving government would have you believe, there's never been any such indication of our laws, both state and federal, that would characterize any of our key rights as being gifted rights granted to us by our government. They are in fact bestowed upon us at birth, rights that we were born into, rights granted to us by our Creator, whom to me is God. It is both the lifelong oath that I swore back in 2007 and my knowledge and training acquired that makes it my obligation to ensure that tyranny never prevails on American soil. In doing so, I've faced political persecution and even political false imprisonment. I honestly feel as if I sold my soul to the devil himself on July 6, 2017, when I pled out to the witch hunt charge placed against me as a barter in exchange for my freedom. They call it a voluntary plea, but in reality, it was everything but voluntary. All due process rights of the accused were intentionally withheld and ignored, beginning with it taking nearly twice the amount of time required by law to bring me before a judge for an initial hearing after arrest on their sham charge so that bond could be set. This immediately followed up by Justice Court Judge Carolyn Bell setting my bond 3 times higher than the maximum stated bond that a crime which would have seen 10 years in prison would have maxed out at, despite me asserting that I had exculpatory evidence of my innocence through a bill of sale. Not only was I innocent of this charge, but in fact no crime was ever committed. There was never truly a victim, despite the fraudulent statements made. The third strike would have been the refusal to set a preliminary hearing in order for my innocence to be proven up front. Not to mention, the judge never even advised me of my right to a preliminary hearing. She only wanted to advise me of my right to remain silent. Finally, an ongoing chancery court battle that had my innocent daughter tied up in it. I had to get out. I had to prevent further damage from happening, which was all but certainly going to affect her. All of it an aggressive plan to keep me suppressed through acts of treason, further intensified through it being politically motivated and it helping an election, the new mayor's ascent to office, and the fly-by-night changing of laws without so much as the consent, much less the knowledge of the government. I've had to fight my way out of every single situation that's arisen. I've paid every bond that's come about from being directly retaliated against solely for my expectation of accountability, justice, fairness, and equality. I've had employment opportunities destroyed based upon my name and continued inspired upon lies stemming from Lafayette County. The individuals that played the original part in everything, and individuals that are friends with those particular individuals. My wife has faced the same, all due to the man she happens to share a last name with. As if that's not bad enough, when factored together, my 7-year-old daughter, Lydia, continues to fall victim to child exploitation and human trafficking through the combined help of her mother, her mother's attorneys, and the Chancery Court of Lafayette County, in which the assigned judge has allowed a continuous knuckleball to be thrown to the middle in a never-ending plot to rid my child from all. I mean, some of the most ridiculous lies ever imagined, vomited onto petitions and affidavits, regardless of every lie under affidavit being disproven and dispelled. The judge actually allowing her to get away with it time and time again, prejudicially adjudicating me guilty until or unless I prove 100% of my innocence. And even then, nothing happens to the other side. Their ridiculous stunt pulled, and all the time lost with my daughter. So I'm done playing those games and having to prove my innocence. The system is clearly broken and in bad need of reform. All of everything that has happened has been done with the illicit intent as an intentional ploy to manipulate legal proceedings and abscond with their legal liability, created through the commission of their own crimes. It certainly harmed me, my wife, and our kids in many more ways than one. One of the most significant is the intentional targeting of ways for me to financially support my family, obtain an attorney, and the steady ongoing effort of trying to derail me from any one of multiple ongoing legal proceedings at any given time, if not all. While it's been the biggest source of knowledge and a humbling journey so far, being that I'm still standing on my 2 feet despite all that's been hurled at me, it has certainly affected me in ways that have had me withdrawing from my family roles due to stress and time constraints. It's time to hire an out-of-state attorney to handle things from here on out. I can't keep up with everything on my own and perform all the necessary tasks a licensed attorney can do. So while I hate asking for me, I'm going to ask for them in order for me to provide for them, to fight back all the injustices we have faced, keeping the fight fueled in the courts, and seeking full restoration of my life through complete vindication. At this stage of the game, I feel like it's a necessity for me to find financial backing through the compassion of others, whom are willing and able to provide assistance. After all, I haven't seen the first politician that's prevailed when challenged, and not done so by the help of fundraising, donations, and support behind them. The same goes for just about every cause and type of activism work. Most certainly, what I'm facing here. If we bend even the slightest and allow even one of our rights to get pushed over and disregarded, all will quickly become pushed over and disregarded. It's the way precedence works, and precedence is what has run the court system all along.
The charge I was charged with was an impossibility to have been committed. The affidavit alleges on or before May 8th, 2017, I put Todd and Ashley Lynch, they are the owners of a bar in Oxford, in fear of their life with an AR-15. However, I was frequenting their bar, didn't have any issues with the Lynches at all, up until May 19th, 2017, when Ashley Lynch threw away my tray of chicken wings that I'd paid cash for and refused to give me a refund. It was reported to me that there was a hit out on my life. The person was not reported to me. This was done by my ex, who has been in the background the entire time, ultimately trying to rid my daughter from my life permanently. I went out and I purchased an AR-15 and a bulletproof vest on May 20th, 12 days after what was alleged on the affidavit. 12 days after. Now, tell me how somebody that is gonna put somebody in fear of their life with a gun, why that person would still be going to their bar for the following 11 days makes absolutely no sense. This entire the entire case was sham. It was a way for, like I said at the beginning, for them to slide the biggest opponent out of the mayor, the incoming mayor, out of the way. I was on the agenda to speak out at City Hall in Oxford, Mississippi on June 6th, 2017. That was the date of her election. Robin Tannehill's husband is Ray Tannehill. Ray Tannehill is one of the most powerful attorneys in the city of Oxford. And it just so happens Ray Tannehill is the child custody attorney for my ex, Liz Crowder. Which explains why she has been puppeteering everything since day one. She put a false accusation of rape on me in November 2018. Failed at her attempt right there to have me permanently ridded from my daughter's life. Because the police department downloaded my phone to see the evidence that she had actually staged it. She had set everything up. She actually admitted on a recorded phone call that she had conspired with her husband to frame me for the crime of rape. Judge let her off, no jail time, but found me in contempt. Just lashed out on me. Found me in contempt for telling him that if he let her off, he created a monster. And for me asking for the court records. I have dealt with bullshit after bullshit. It has added I don't know how many years to my life. There have been countless nights that have gone without sleep, having to work through the night to meet deadlines because no attorney is representing me. And I can't just let these people get away with it. Precedence runs everything, runs the court system. And if they can turn the gun on somebody that pledged a lifelong oath to protect and defend their country, if the government can turn their back, they can do it to anybody else next. And they will. Not to mention if society as a whole can actually know the facts and not just be outraged over everything. and actually allow that person, that innocent person, with 3.5 kids, really 4 kids, to say a half because my wife has a daughter from another relationship. I've got a daughter from another relationship. I haven't even seen her in nearly 6 months, based on her going on hiatus again, using the Chancery Court as a weapon. Exploiting me, exploiting my child, and doing it through a broken legal system. I filed a motion for peremptory reversal in the Court of Appeals after I turned in my appellate brief. Peremptory reversal is warranted whenever error is when it's manifest error, so much in nature that it requires a reversal. That is what is streaming, or what I've got the actual filing going in the background. Here it is.
Okay, I'm about to burn somebody's ass up. It's been long overdue.
I'm talking about a figure of speech.
The whole legal system has gone completely perverted. I don't know about other cases. I don't know about other people outside of what I'm particularly dealing in. But I've made numerous references to this over the past year and a half. Honestly, the last 4 years. It always used to be presumption of innocence until proven guilty in a court of law, backed by the Constitution. And I guess the Chancery Court of Lafayette County, Judge Robert Whitwell, that doesn't apply to. At least for me, it's a presumption of guilt until 100% of your innocence is proven. And with that comes taking away the right to even see my daughter over and over again. The evidence proves that this court in particular has been the biggest pivoting wedge for Lafayette County. And now I realize this is truly where my fight is. It's child exploitation. It's child trafficking through the Chancery Court of Lafayette County.
It's Matt Reardon, the Oxford Outlaw. I wanted to bring you some news. Today I filed a writ of mandamus in Circuit Court at the Circuit Clerk's office against Circuit Court Judge John Kelly Luther and Justice Court Judge Carolyn Bell. All signs pointed to Judge John Kelly Luther playing a crucial part in everything back to 2017. In fact, there have been numerous examples. The attorney in my case that represented me, that came on and represented me, Brennan Horan, who actually made direct reference to John Kelly Luther being somebody that he quill hunted with. Ray Tannehill being somebody that he was in law school with. And John Kelly Luther has adamantly refused to entertain the actual facts that happened in that cause, the laws that were broken by state actors, the rules that were ignored, that were purposefully ignored by government employees, by the sheriff's department, by the courts. The due process rights, constitutional rights that I was downright refused. And the intentional incarceration and jailing of me for 6 weeks' time, refusing to entertain a bond reduction hearing, refusing to lower the bond to a constitutionally fit amount, instead choosing to leave it at a constitutionally unsound amount of $150,000, which was 3 times higher than the maximum the guidelines established in the Mississippi Rules for Criminal Procedure that was republished earlier that year. For the crime that I was charged, which was aggravated stalking, which then changed to cyber stalking. Aggravated stalking is a crime that sees a maximum 5 years incarceration if found guilty. Any crime with a maximum incarceration of up to 10 years. The guidelines established by the Mississippi Supreme Court finally detail that the range should be between $5,000 and $50,000. Judge Carolyn Bell, who knew better, who definitely, without a doubt, knew better, because, I mean, after all, this is the judge that has had a habit of setting bonds on the lower end of the guideline scale. I mean, she set a accused rapist and kidnapper, set his bond at $20,000, gave him a $10,000 bond on each of the two criminal charges, very serious criminal charges. $10,000 for rape, $10,000 for kidnapping. But a Marine Corps veteran, a patriot, somebody that never actually caused any harm on anybody and didn't actually issue any kind of threats of physical harm. It was all political since day one, and it was part of a plan to silence me, to keep the incoming socialist mayor's biggest adversary at bay, to use criminal prosecution and incarceration as a way of suppressing somebody that didn't align politically, and having enough power and sway in order to move the courts and get the cooperation of the sheriff's department, of the judges, of certain key government officials in the area, in order to successfully pull off what would become a just ridiculous quid pro quo plot that up until now they've been successful. And boy, is it employed the help of many. And what I'm here to do is to bring the truth to the light, to show how this is spiderwebbed out of control, and to show that the people in these positions of power within the government have been destroying lives. And they've been destroying lives on taxpayer dollars. And what this has become is it's become a treason just nightmare. It's got treason written all over it. I said since the beginning it needed to be prosecuted under the RICO Act, and it certainly does. And why the hell the FBI and the Department of Justice has refused to even look into it is downright appalling. I've got four different calls with the Mississippi Bureau of Investigations, the MBI. It's the state version of the FBI for Mississippi. And after I had realized that the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, which in turn would directly implicate the Department of Justice, was complicit in all of this by way of destroying records, exfoliation of evidence, and fraudulent concealment. I've gone to the MBI. I've reached out to them, simply asking for a full, fair, and impartial investigation to be conducted. Serious allegations play. The serious allegations that have been backed up by fact. Each time I'm told that somebody with the MBI is going to reach out to me, that I'll hear from somebody within their ranks. I've asked for Colonel Morrison, Lieutenant Colonel Morrison, on each of the 4 times. Haven't spoken with the Lieutenant Colonel Morrison, who's the commander. Okay? And I'm looking to hold somebody accountable, whoever, or multiple. Because these people are paid to do a job to protect us. And when serious allegations are made, serious crimes are occurring, which are ultimately just, they're destroying lives. And it's happening on a regular basis, and it's happening on taxpayer dollars. Riding with the outlaw is about accountability. It's about responsibility. It's not about fame. And you can see it's not about fortune. In fact, this has been something that I've dedicated myself to because it's that serious of an ordeal to me. I've put my life on the line in order for my kids, not only myself, to have an opportunity to, at a future, but my kids. Also America. Because as I've said since day one, being a Marine Corps veteran, I wrote a blank check to our country for an amount up to my life. I swore an oath that never expires, even though I'm out. And I swore that to our government. And if our government can turn the gun around on one of its own that made that kind of pledge, a lifelong pledge to uphold and defend its Constitution and to protect it from all enemies, foreign and domestic, if they can do that to a Marine Corps veteran, you bet your ass they could do it to any single person next. Precedence is what has run this country all along. It's run the courts, it's run law enforcement, it's run politics. Hold your people accountable. In the Circuit Court of Lafayette County, Mississippi, Matthew Reardon, plaintiff, versus Judge John Kelly Luther and Judge Carolyn Bell, defendant. This is the petition for writ of mandamus. Plaintiff Matthew Reardon hereby petitions for a writ of mandamus and seeks an order from the higher court granting this petition for a writ of mandamus and directing the circuit court judge to grant relief sought on his motion filed December 23, 2020, in conjunction with criminal cause LK17-295, or in the alternative, to promptly recuse himself as trial judge. Plaintiff in this cause has faced some of the most extreme prejudicial treatment and handling by the state of Mississippi, whom plaintiff directly asserts has continued to persecute the plaintiff on a plethora of criminal charges in order to attempt to stack the deck and demonize him in the eyes of the public, along with various courts. Plaintiff stands exhausted and mentally fatigued from having to prepare defense to an ever-growing list of court hearings, all of which directly stem from the original ruling made July 7, 2017 in criminal cause LK17-295, in which Judge John Kelly Luther presided and ruled in what plaintiff asserts to be the most tainted, corrupt, highly prejudicial, and unlawful legal charade, which is a complete abuse of power and proceeding, aka witch hunt, in at least the last decade, if not the past century. Plaintiff has continued and will continue asserting his claim that the trial court knowingly chose to toss its own procedures, rules, laws, ethics, and moral turpitude to the wayside, and in the act of doing so blatantly disregarded mandated procedures laid out in the Mississippi Rules of Criminal Procedure, which was detailed out in the plaintiff's motion for release from judgment under MRCP Rule 60 submitted to the trial court on December 23, 2020. Plaintiff acknowledges that he has a pending appeal before the Court of Appeals, which was recently docketed on 3/10/2021. However, MRCP Rule 60 states, to wit, leave to make the motion need not be obtained from the appellate court unless the record has been transmitted to the appellate court
and the action remains pending therein. Plaintiff is beyond belief that the defendant circuit court judge has not only been allowed to continue proceeding over this case, but other cases amongst the serious claims made which he adamantly has refused the plaintiff an opportunity for an evidentiary hearing which the record itself and the facts of the criminal cause LK17-295 should not even require, based upon interpretation of the Mississippi Rules of Criminal Procedure, the Mississippi Rules of Civil Procedure, and the Code of Judicial Performance. It is the impression of the plaintiff that there is only one acceptable remedy to this matter: to vacate the plea and judgment entirely, based solely in principle on the state of Mississippi and both defendant judges denying the plaintiff on this writ certain key due process unalienable rights, and in turn denying him all opportunities for a fair trial to take place. As stated all along, and particularly in the motion submitted on December 23, 2020, the meritorious reasons that have been claimed and listed should in fact render the plea and judgment to be null and void, even unlawful and unconstitutional, based upon established state and federal law and longstanding court precedents based upon the seriousness of everything. These incurable errors have been previously detailed out, but include, among others, fraud, misrepresentation, misconduct of an adverse party, newly discovered evidence, the fact that petitioner's bond was set unconstitutionally high in a punitive way, 3 times higher than the maximum stated on the guidelines for bail, readopted less than a year prior, a habeas corpus petition approved by Judge Howarth, which was never acted upon, no preliminary hearing ever being set, and all bond reduction requests completely ignored. At this point, plaintiff would naturally have to question the misconduct at hand, further characterizing it as intentional criminal conduct, which would give off all feelings and impressions of a deeper level of involvement from the grave misconduct of the 2 judicial officials listed in this petition, along with Municipal Court Judge Leslie Shoemake, which is currently pending before the U.S. District Court of the Northern District. Plaintiff formally requests for an impartial formal investigation to be ordered into the claims plaintiff has made and produced evidence of, and for the plea and judgment on LK17-295 to be rendered invalid, or in the alternative, for a hearing on the evidence and facts to be ordered. Should a hearing on the evidence and facts be ordered, plaintiff immediately moves for recusal of Circuit Court Judge John Kelly Luther from the matter due to the grievances listed, along with the inability to preside following submission of a writ of mandamus, which requires further that the Circuit Court Judge recuse himself from all matters involving the plaintiff. Plaintiff requests for the Justice Court Judge Carolyn Bell to be remanded for her actions in setting an unconstitutional bond 3 times higher than the maximum guidelines called for in LK17-295, and further refusing to allow the defendant in that cause to speak in order to show unquestionable proof of his innocence to the matter, nor allowing the defendant in the cause to proceed with setting a preliminary hearing. Filed motion for relief from judgment under MRCP Rule 60 is filed and attached hereto as Exhibit A. Respectfully submitted. The first day of April 2021. This is not an April Fool's Day joke. Matt Reardon, the Oxford Outlaw.
All rise. Start this back in session.
Hey, you gotta move that. I'll move when I talk to Joey. Joey knows I'm out here waiting. He needs to come out and talk to me. I'll move when I talk to Joey. When Joey wants to talk to me, I'll move. Otherwise, I'm not breaking any law just for parking in a spot that says reserved for the sheriff's department.
One more time.
I'm here at the sheriff's department.
Move, or you will go to jail for disorder.
I'm not being disordered. I'm moving my car. I'm moving my car. I was moving my car. Ah! Really? Ah! I said I was moving my car. Oh! Stop! Ah!
Before we proceed, I want to make sure that certain rules are followed. Rule 1.03, the use of cameras, recording, broadcasting equipment, or such shall be governed by the Code of Judicial Conduct. A couple of years ago, the law was changed as far as recording in courts. The bigger courts are allowed to record, but the Justice Court Rule 1.03 Cameras or recordable devices should still not allow justice courts or municipal courts. So, Mr. Reardon, I want to make sure that you understand there shall be no recording of this.
Your Honor, I had questions about that. I had questions about that, Your Honor. It's my understanding Justice Court.
It shall not be permitted. As far as the recording device, camera, or anything as far as this hearing is concerned, it shall not be allowed.
Can I put a motion before the court for that?
Mr. Reardon, the motion. That is the rule of governing justice court. We're not going to have a recorder. Are you recording this hearing?
I've got my cell phone recording, yes, sir.
Mr. Constable, can you make sure it is? Yes, sir.
Mr. Reardon, you have made a motion.
The foregoing petition is in regards to the current ongoing criminal charge of disorderly conduct and resisting arrest, which are identified in this court under cause numbers 929-0609 and 929-0610, respectively. The plaintiff in this particular matter brought forth is Matthew Reardon, whom hereby petitions for a writ of mandamus and seeks relief from the trial court, trial judge, and ruling made on March 1st, 2021. Plaintiff states that the defendant judge, Mickey Avon, acted outside of his jurisdiction, of his office, and even authority in this particular situation in ordering that the plaintiff cease recording of proceedings brought forth in this court. The trial judge did so, citing Rule 1.03. The trial judge referenced the Uniform Rules of Procedure for Justice Court. Plaintiff stated on numerous occasions that he felt he couldn't get a fair hearing in the Lafayette County Justice Court due to events that have taken place over the past 3.5 years, all stemming from the crippling decisions made in this very court when Judge Carolyn Bell took it on herself to set plaintiff's bond at $150,000 on a felony charge levied against the plaintiff in May of 2017, which not only lacked probable cause, but deprived the plaintiff of his due process rights along with his civil liberties by setting bond in a punitive way, even when plaintiff asserted he had solid proof that he couldn't have possibly committed such crime. Plaintiff had assertively claimed reservations and worries that he had, including recently demonstrating how he feels that he's demonstrated Lafayette County officials and agencies denying the plaintiff of equal protections of the law, which are granted not only by Article 3 of the Mississippi Constitution and its Bill of Rights, but the federal Constitution, which plaintiff swore a lifelong oath to protect and defend. Plaintiff would vehemently affirm before this court that he has remained on the receiving end of repetitive targeting by way of preferential prosecution, which over and over has exceeded the threshold of malicious prosecution and even prosecutorial misconduct. Not only is this blatant to the plaintiff in this cause, but it should be blatantly clear to any onlooker, not only with this cause, but the other open causes filed in this court as well. When all evidence is assessed in November 2020, plaintiff was involved in a case in Olive Branch, where he was charged with contempt, despite doing exactly what he was asked to do by the court. Fortunately, the case was just dismissed on March 1st, 2021 due to plaintiff carrying a tape recorder which corroborated exactly that which the plaintiff claimed. The alleged false arrest is currently on file and pending before the U.S. District Court of Northern Mississippi, referenced by case number 320-CV-00327-DMB-JMV. It is reasons like this that the plaintiff feels it is a paramount need and one that each court should allow. In fact, plaintiff is of the impression that this is a request that should be looked at as an accommodation, and one that's no different than any accommodation afforded to Americans with disabilities under the Americans with Disabilities Act. The trial judge read off the title to 1.03 in the Uniform Rules of Procedure for Justice Court. However, after the title, nothing made sense to the plaintiff, and it almost felt to the plaintiff that this reading was being falsely read and presented to the plaintiff. However, Rule 1.03 states as follows. Use of cameras. The use of cameras, recording, or broadcasting equipment, or such shall be governed by the Code of Judicial Conduct. Plaintiff would state that not only does 1.03 lack any language that would bar the use of an audio recorder, especially in lack of a court reporter/transcriber. This in turn poses prejudicial and completely one-sided to the plaintiff, where everything is left up to hearsay in the absence of proof. Plaintiff requested to motion the court for him to be allowed to audio record the hearing and was immediately denied, further being told something to the effect of, "The rules are the rules." Plaintiff hereby quotes Rule 2.03, additional rules out of the Uniform Rules of Procedure for Justice Court, which states as follows: "No rule or procedure, local or otherwise, shall be adopted without the approval of the Mississippi Supreme Court." Plaintiff would request answer from this trial court, and specifically the trial judge, as to if he and this court had approval of the Mississippi Supreme Court to establish such a rule that adversely can affect the outcome of a legal proceeding, and one which is clearly not spelled out in the reference rules of Uniform Rules of Procedure for Justice Court. The plaintiff would then jump down to Rule 3.01, applicability of rules, in the same referenced outline. Rule 3.01, Rules of Criminal Procedure in Justice Court, are governed by the Mississippi Rules of Criminal Procedure. General rules are also applicable in criminal cases. When taking a look at the Mississippi Rules of Criminal Procedure, which just so happens to be the true governing doctrine, and examining the facts of this case, it would appear that the rights of the plaintiff on this motion have been affected in a way that could create a material breach of even more entitled rights of the plaintiff. Rule 1.10 of the Mississippi Rules of Criminal Procedure details recordation of proceedings where official court reporters are not provided. Any attorney of record or pro se litigant in a court which does not provide an official court reporter may record or have recorded any court proceeding by audio recording device or stenography. Any expenses incident thereto shall be borne by the party or parties. Plaintiff has attempted to raise multiple instances of irregularities and what would easily appear to be unscrupulous, immoral, and unlawful conduct demonstrated by deputies on site while arrest was made. Plaintiff will not concede his notion that this arrest was a targeted, unwarranted, and further unlawful arrest made with excessive force used, and all for the plaintiff commuting to the sheriff's department to communicate his grievances with Sheriff Joey East. Plaintiff has been denied access to the closest camera angle of arrest, which plaintiff wholeheartedly believes is an attempt to hide or cover up wrongdoings, and following plaintiff's assertions of not being afforded equal protections of the laws. As such, it is for these reasons listed that the plaintiff believes the idea of a fair and impartial trial is at an improbability and nearing an impossibility to the plaintiff. As such, duress is taken over. The plaintiff and plaintiff respectfully request answer from this trial court and the trial judge, along with a review of such from the Supreme Court of Mississippi, as plaintiff feels as though not having a court reporter, no jury, and no recording equipment potentially paves way to a constitutional crisis and has a habit of removing all fairness from a proceeding that should be comprised of fairness. Plaintiff also requests answers to why Lafayette County is refusing to produce the closest camera angle of the arrest and parked vehicle despite resistance on the matter. Plaintiff feels that this information is not privileged and is nothing more than the Lafayette County Sheriff's Department and Lafayette County officials yet again attempting to cover their tracks. Plaintiff hereby requests that any and all hearings in this court involving him be pushed back to allow proper response and adherence to request. If this court, the prosecutor, and the state of Mississippi wishes to proceed on with this cause and not dismiss in light of the information brought forth, then plaintiff hereby invokes his right to a trial by jury of his peers, as guaranteed to him by the state and federal constitutions. Respectfully submitted this 2nd day of March 2021, Matt Reardon, the Oxford Outlaw. I'll move when I talk to Joey. Joey knows I'm out here waiting. He needs to come out and talk to me. I'll move when I talk to Joey. When Joey wants to talk to me, I'll move. Otherwise, I'm not breaking any law just for parking in a spot that says reserved for the sheriff's department. I'm here at the sheriff's department.
you will go to jail for disorder.
I'm not being disordered.
I'm moving my car! I'm moving my car! I was moving my car! I said I was moving my car! Oh! Stop!
Y'all take care. Please share my stream. And if you have the ability to contribute, writingwiththeoutlaw.com/help. I need an out-of-state attorney ASAP.